Right now, the retail investors are underperforming NASDAQ.
Retail investors, the people who use Robinhood, have moved on from Bitcoin because it's become too boring and old. And now they're doing everything except Bitcoin.
No, we see a lot of younger investors now thinking more about their retirement than in the past.
Does data show you that investors actually become better over time?
We're back at Consensus Miami with my co-host,
Bonnie Chain.
And joining us today is Johann Kerbrat. He is the head of crypto at Robinhood. Welcome to the show. Johann, we're going to be talking about the entire crypto industry as well as Robinhood Chain and much more.
Robinhood has this Robinhood Investor Index that tracks the performance of the top 100 most owned investments on Robinhood. And right now, the retail investors are underperforming NASDAQ. What does that tell you?
I think for us, the main goal has been to give all the tools for retail investors to access the market and to be able to really decide on their investment. The index itself has different ways to look at it, and if you look at a specific period, you can always find different ways to interpret it. But I think what we've seen in a lot of situations is that our customers are actually able to get in front of the markets.
Is it fair to say that retail investors are acting more and more like institutions? For example, the top 10 investments right now, NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, Palantir, these are all owned by institutions. And now retail investors also love them. So is it fair to say that most people should just own these big mega cap stocks?
We think that customers should be able to decide what they want to do. And so for us, that's really the point, right? Like we want to give them the access, we want to give them the tools to decide by themselves. I do think it's true that a lot of retail made some of these companies that you mentioned really big before even the institution really cared about them. So I think that's really something that we've been focused on. And the other part that we really care about is giving access to companies sooner for retail investors. Right now, if you think about private equity, it's something that is really excluding most of retail investors because you have to be accredited in the US and a lot of the population is not. And so I think for us with Robinhood, the idea was really to find ways to give access. We launched, for example, a fund called Robinhood Venture. It's a closed-end fund that includes many of private companies. And that way the retail investor can get in at the same time as institution instead of waiting for the company to go public.
I want to get your take on Robinhood's greater strategy here for attracting retail capital and attention. Over the last year, we've seen the rise of prediction markets, with prediction markets volume soaring by 400% across several companies in 2025 alone, with more retail investors switching now to that particular market. How are low-cost exchanges like Robinhood competing?
For prediction market, the main reason that we see a lot of interest from our customer has been that it's a brand new way to invest into the market. And I think, until now, it was very difficult for you to hedge against AI, against new economic situation. And with economical contracts like something around like the rates dropping or the rates increasing, you have different ways to engage before an announcement, and you don't have to just invest in one stock or one fund. So I think it really changed the game on how we can actually invest. And I think for us, the superpower has been to have everything within one app. You can go on Robinhood to buy crypto, equities, option, and at the same time also prediction market. And I think that's a big difference for us.
美国政府在借钱，企业在借钱，房地产在借钱，很多高资产族群其实也不想要轻易卖掉自己的核心资产，尤其是在这种高波动的市场里面，很多人更在意的是我有没有办法先取得流动性，不是直接把资产卖掉。像是在加密货币市场呢，就很多人选择像是 Nexo 这种借贷平台，把加密货币作为抵押品借贷，最高可以借出资产价值的50%。现在透过下方资讯栏连结加入呢 ，App 打开之后，仪表板上会看到信用中心，点进去之后呢，就可以找到不同 同的抵押方式，会员的等级越高，利率越好。但是要提醒大家，风险呢，如果没有计算周全，或者是遇到这个资产的大幅下跌，要不然就是遇到平台的风险，还是会面临强制平仓。Nexo 是一家成立于2018年的数位资产管理平台，同时也是奥迪 F1 团队的官方合作伙伴。那 Nexo 除了可以借贷，也可以在上面领取收益。App 的仪表板上面储蓄中心点进去，就可以按照步骤申请质押，持续领取收益。频道现在的优惠呢，是用专属连结加入的，7天之内只要存入$5000，就可以获得30天 Platinum 会员的资格，得到理财最高 15% 的年化收益。当然还有其他的福利，详细资讯呢我会放在资讯栏。
You built Robinhood Chain. Why?
So we launched a testnet a few months ago. So far it's been doing very well. We've seen more than 100 million transactions on our testnet. And the main reason why we wanted to build it was to create a chain that is really focused on financial instruments. A chain that is optimized for real world assets at the time of AI and agentic trading as well. Not just something that is made to optimize for gas fees or sequencer fees or something like that. So for us, it was important to understand how we can bring the technology aspect of crypto into the traditional finance system that has a lot of complexities and still a lot of limitation. For example, 24/7 is not something that is supported. Instant settlements is not supported. And so when we launch our tokenized products, we want to make sure that we can offer all these benefits of the crypto technology to our customers.
Why don't you just pick one of the layer 2s or whatever faster blockchain instead of building your own?
Yeah, we've thought about it. It was a long discussion for us internally. The main reason we decided to build our own chain was we wanted to get access to the liquidity of Ethereum and the security of Ethereum. They spend a lot of time thinking about all these aspects. And at the same time, we wanted to have enough ways to customize the chain. So for us, compliance is very important. We are a global company working in many countries, and we want to make sure that we can implement all the system that our regulators are asking for. And we can do it at the chain layer instead of doing it at smart contracts layer or not doing it at all, like some of our competitors. So for us, it was important to have this customization and also all the advantage of a layer 1 like Ethereum.
How does Robinhood position itself right now? There's no cost ways to transact peer-to-peer through DEXs. There's also higher costs if it gets through centralized exchanges. Where does Robinhood sit in the grander picture?
For us, the question has always been about democratizing access. So when we launch stock for the first time without commission, a lot of our competitor or incumbent were saying that it was not something possible, and then they all kind of replicated the model. And same thing for crypto. We offer the lowest cost on average on crypto. And if you enable some features like volume tier, for example, you can get as low as 3 basis points
How would you
fee.
use AI to make your fees even lower?
I think for us, the AI advantage is going to be what are the new features that we can unlock to our customers. So for example, we launched Cortex Digest. That is a AI agent giving you all the information about the news for your portfolio, but not just at a summary level, but also at detail level. So if you see the Bitcoin price moving, for example, you tap on a notification, all our customers were asking like, okay, Bitcoin is moving 5%, but I don't really understand why. Now we have this digest explaining to you what happened. And the goal is not to necessarily give a recommendation to the customer, but give them all the information that they need to make the decision that they want to do on purchasing or not the asset. But we didn't stop just there. We also launched our Cortex Assistant, and you can actually interact with the agent and understand more like your strategy around your own portfolio. And so we'll understand a bit more what is going on for you before we can actually give you information about your portfolio.
What is Robinhood trying to be in 5 to 10 years?
At this point, we are just trying to become this super app, not just in the US, but also internationally. We recently received approval in different regions. So we launched in the EU, for example. We launched in the UK a couple of years ago. We also have our exchange named Bitstamp that is live in Singapore, for example. And so for us, the goal is to really start expanding what has been a success in the US, but also outside of the US.
for someone who has never used Robinhood, how do you explain to people why are you better than other competitors?
Yeah, I think at this point what we've been saying is that you're basically at a disadvantage if you're not using Robinhood to invest. We have a full suite of product in the US, from a credit card, banking, to investing, not just in one specific category, but in an array of investment. And really, all the information that we are gathering for when you interact with all our different products, we are able to help you across your journey to really make the right decision. And we think it's really important to double click on this, right? Like with the advance of AI, being able to have information about your portfolio, not just about generic, like what you will see on the press, is very important.
Do you think your discussion internally and the ambition is different? Like, what is the discussion like within the company? Like, what is the ambition?
Oh, the ambition is the same. Being the super app everywhere in the world. I think for us, we are a very big company in the US with 27 million net funded accounts, but we are still very small outside of the US. And so for us, the question is really how do we get to the next level outside? We also have a Robinhood wallet, which is a self-custody wallet available in 100 plus countries. We want to make sure that we can grow across the globe.
Within the crypto arm of Robinhood, which is what you're focused on, what have investor trends taught us about sentiment in the crypto space? What do investors like right now? What do they dislike?
Well, we've definitely seen the market pulling back a bit in terms of volume. And I think it's understandable, right? Like the action has been very cyclical, but we still see a lot of our customer segment that are investing, taking the chance of buying the dip, these kind of things. And we've been building a lot of tools around this type of moments. So we have recurring investment, for example. So a lot of our customers are using to dollar cost average on Bitcoin. We also have new order types like stop loss, for example, to make sure that if the price of an asset goes too low, you can actually exit right away. And I think it's been very important. A lot of our customers are on the more advanced side of things, and so they want to have these tools that were not existing before in Robinhood.
So for example, I've heard the narrative that retail investors, the people who use Robinhood, have moved on from Bitcoin because it's become too boring and old. And now they're doing everything except Bitcoin. Has the data proven this theory?
No, I don't think that's correct.
Okay.
Bitcoin is still one of our top assets on the platform, and by far. So I think Bitcoin has also the value of being this like store of value and safe type of asset. So I don't think people are bored necessarily, but I think where it might be true is that people want to do more with their assets. They want to go on DeFi, they want to go on Web3, they want to engage with DeFi protocols. And so for that, they are often using Robinhood to buy some specific assets and then transferring them on their self-custody wallet.
You also work on tokenization, right? I want to ask you about tokenizing real estate. So a quick, interesting fun fact, in Taiwan right now, in Taipei, it costs 185 months household salary for an average apartment. So that is very expensive. Now, if we tokenize real estate or housing, like stock split, that would drive up demand because now I can trade 1% of that real estate. Does that just drive up the price even more?
I think it will depend, right? Like you always have this question of demand and offer. I think making assets more liquid doesn't necessarily mean that the asset will be going up, but I think it will give access to more people because right now, to your point, buying the entire apartment or household might be expensive, but buying a fraction of it might be actually more accessible to a lot of the population. So I think it will depend. The other advantage of tokenization, I think, is that it removes a lot of companies and people in the middle. So I don't really know how it works in Taipei, but for example, in the US, you have a lot of costs that are kind of in the middle for like just getting your mortgage, understanding the underlying assets and everything. And if we're able to streamline all of this using a smart contract, using mass of the smart contract, we should actually be able to reduce the cost. to get a mortgage, for example, and so make it more accessible for more people to get into real estate.
What would that look like in 5 years or sooner? Let's say I want to buy a house and you tokenize my mortgage. What would that look like? Like, how is it different from the process now?
I think it won't be very different at the end of the day, but you will just remove a lot of these banks and underliers that are in between, and so you will be able to reduce the cost a little bit, because the less companies are in between, everyone taking a cut, you are able to cut that, and you are able to reduce the cost. But for us, we do see that most assets in the future are going to be tokenized. It's just make it a lot more easy to custody, to see the trace of ownership. And so I think it should streamline things quite a bit.
When can we start trading a tokenized share of Robinhood on Robinhood?
Well, we already have our stock tokens, in the EU, for example, that have about 2,000 US stocks and ETF that are represented on chain. Hood is one of them. But, for us, the main idea about this stock token is to be able to give access to more assets. So right now we only did US stocks and ETF, but we think in the future we can open to more exchanges, private equity, maybe real estate, and more.
So when can I send a Hood stock to you? Like, can I transfer ownership? That is the idea.
Currently, we are not offering DeFi, but it is something that we're excited about. When we announced our projects last year, we had a 3-phase plan. We are still at the beginning of it, but we will give an update on the phases pretty soon.
Well, technically, it could work if governments do not stop you.
Yeah, I mean, any product that we launch, we work with regulators. So that's something that, we've always never taken a shortcut on regulation. We have multiple licenses in Europe, in the US, in Singapore. And for us, it's extremely important to work with them, to show them the products that we want to launch, so that, what you just described doesn't happen.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I love what you guys are doing. But my question is, we want this grand vision of, a farmer in Indonesia, he or she can buy a piece of Manhattan real estate or US equity on their phones. But governments do not want that because they want some sort of capital control or market control, right? How do you see that play out?
Again, like for us, the idea will be to work with the government. So for example, with Indonesia, we announced the acquisition of 2 companies that are Indonesia-based. One is a crypto company and one is a brokerage. And, we really think that if we're able to work with them and show them the value of bringing the population into the economy, it will actually be beneficial for the economy and the population as well.
So you guys are actively talking to governments and,
Absolutely. All the time.
I love that.
I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball in terms of numbers here. This is the St. Louis Fed M2 money supply in annual percentage terms.
Okay.
So if I were to overlay this with trading volume on Robinhood, what would you expect the correlation to be?
Well, that will really depend, I think, on...
Money supply increased. This was during the height of the
Right.
COVID era and also the meme stock craze era that partly drove Robinhood popularity globally. And then shortly after, the Fed engaged quantitative tightening, and now we're seeing what they call QE light. I wonder how much liquidity is directly tied to trading volume on exchanges like Robinhood.
Yeah, I will say for us, the focus has been more on diversifying the business, because to your point, in 2021, a lot of our revenue was coming from pure trading activity. Since then, we've been diversifying a lot. Right now, we have 11 different businesses making $100 million in revenue or more. And I think that's really the beauty of Robinhood as a company, meaning that if there is a shortage of liquidity on trading, for example, we will have other businesses that will probably benefit from what is going on. So, for example, when the credit rates are changing, it's either trading that we see a bit more happening, or we see a bit more people just saving money. And so in both situations, Robinhood is able to generate revenue. And I think that's what's really important. We didn't just stop at pure trading. We also launched recently a credit card, a banking application. We have the prediction markets that you just mentioned. So, for us, no matter what happens in the market, we want to make sure that Robinhood can actually benefit from it.
That reminded me of, I think a couple years ago, you guys had a cash delivery service.
Yes, we still have it.
Okay, what is that about? I've never had a chance to use it, but
basically, if you're using our banking system, you can, ask for, instead of going to the ATM, you can ask for the cash to be delivered to you, which is, a good way to save time, because sometimes you want to go on a trip or you need to pay somebody, but you didn't have time to go to the ATM, and you can have someone meeting you with the envelope.
I love that. During Chinese New Year, man.
We don't have that in Canada. Unfortunately, not to the same extent as Bonnie. That would be a lot of fun.
Now, if assets become more tokenized, who captures the value?
Well, for a lot of cases, we actually want to give it back to customers. So if you think about stablecoin, which is probably the most tokenized asset that people are talking about, like the US dollar being tokenized, we've been advocating publicly that we want to pass a yield to the customer, and we want to make sure that they are able to benefit from it. Right now, we feel like a customer is almost at a disadvantage if they use stablecoin versus just holding cash on Robinhood, because on cash, we're able to pass a yield, not on stable until the Clarity Act define this a bit more clearly. So I think it's going to be similar to some of these other assets that you're talking about. If there are ways to generate money on it, for us, the goal will be to find a way to give it back to the customer.
You're operating across several different continents. I wonder if the data shows a clear delineation or difference in terms of consumer and retail investor interest in certain cryptos between Asia, Europe, and North America, or any other region that you operate in.
We have different customer segments everywhere, and the geolocation is also very different. So our centralized exchange is kind of live only in some specific jurisdictions, so mostly Europe, like I said, Singapore before, and the US. But then we have our self-custody wallet that is available across the globe. So you see different usage based on customer types. We have the people that are more like buying and holding for a long time, and you have the very active traders and everything in between.
One of the great things, sorry, one more question, I'll pass it to Bonnie. One of the great things about being in your position is that you get to see user data in real time. And I think a lot of crypto users have been asking the question for months and months on end, when is altcoin season happening? I think they've probably given up asking that question. But what data or indicators would you look at specifically from your platform, Robinhood, that could help answer that question?
Usually I will say DeFi activity, like the on-chain transfers, the number of transactions on-chain is when we see people getting more into that space. But that's also something that always depends a bit of what is going on the macroeconomics. And as always, we also need utility, right? So when you see platforms that are being built on chain that drive utility, you see a lot more enthusiasm from customers than when it's just like we are hoping to see something in the future of being developed.
You guys are going global, and I recently watched your CEO's interview, and he said, you guys are not trying to compete with other exchanges. Rather, you guys want to be the first platform that people put their money in. So this money could have been spent somewhere, but they choose to invest those money. So that is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's very important to be early in the investor journey. I think for a long time, financial education was not necessarily part of what you learn in high school or in middle school. But the sooner you can start thinking about your investment, about your retirement, about the long term, the sooner it is that you start having the right question and starting to build the habit to save, to invest on a regular basis. And so I think for us, it's important that we are here no matter your stage of the journey. We invest a lot on education and learning tools so that the first time that you open the app, you understand what's going on, you understand like what is a limit order, what is a market order, why should I invest in X, Y, Z. And that's why also all these AI tools are very important, because we can give you a lot more information than if you were just like opening the app for the first time without any of that. And then when you start building on top of Robinhood, you're basically building a different profile. And when you get to 30 years old or when you get to retirement, you have an actual portfolio that you've been able to manage with time.
I've heard this theory. So when you're younger, you should take more risk. You should learn to invest because you don't have that much to lose. Does data show you that investors actually become better over time? Or
I don't think we've looked at that specific question. And I don't think it's necessarily true that younger investors are taking more risk. I think it depends on many profiles. How did you grow up? Like, what is your net worth? What is your risk profile? We see a lot of younger investors now thinking more about their retirement than in the past, for example, because in the past there was like more confidence on pensions and all these things. So, things have changed quite a bit. What I've been saying is also that more and more younger investors are thinking about their future, which I think is a great step forward.
what is telling you that? Is it how they behave on the app? Or
Well, if you look at some of our competitors and the average age, and you look at Robinhood's, for example, average age, you will see that a lot of our customers are a bit younger because they are starting earlier in their process. And I think it's part also of our UX and UI, the fact that we're mobile first. All of that really made it in a way that people don't necessarily dread the idea of like calling an investor or something on the phone or their bank. They can do all of this on the phone whenever they want. We have 24/5 for stock trading, for example, allowing you to even trade during the week. So I think it's important.
I have one final question for you. How much of total trading volume do you think will be AI bots in 5 years' time? If you had to take a guess.
It's hard to know because the hedge funds are already doing a lot of.
Even retail investors all over Twitter, I'm seeing people writing tutorials on how to use Claude to build a bot for trading.
Absolutely, but my point was more
Yeah.
like the hedge funds, for example, and big shop are already using AI a lot, and so they have a massive amount of portfolio that they are using to trade, and so I think it's hard to say like how much retail is going to change, but I do think AI is going to be part of your journey in the future. You can get a lot of information very easily, and I think that's something that we want to make sure that people can use Robinhood for. So, for example, we have a crypto API that you can connect to whatever AI system that you want to use. It's very simple, and you can start trading on your account with it. So, we think it's something that is here to stay. People are going to start implementing more and more of these tools. And I wouldn't even wait 5 years to see a decent amount of volume being AI powered in some way.
a lot of centralized exchange started in Asia, and we want Robinhood here too. Do you have any plans expanding to any Chinese-speaking regions, except for Singapore?
Definitely plans at some point to be more and more global. Right now we've been focusing on Singapore and Indonesia, like I was mentioning earlier, and we will basically go from there. But I think for us, making sure that we can be a great partner in this region is very important, and it's one of our top priorities.
Okay.
Is there a timeline that we can expect?
Not at this point, no.
Johann, thank you very much for giving us an update on Robinhood. Best of luck
Thank you.
with your launch of Robinhood Chain, and we'll talk soon.
All right, see you soon.
Thank you.